Right, so contrary to what I'm wearing, this is going to be a rugby union video. Look, and it's sort of come about because of stories that have emerged in the New Zealand media over the last few days. Of course, if you haven't heard, New Zealand Rugby has told the provinces that the NPC potentially will not have a broadcast partner this year. Of course, they're citing all that stuff about the competition as it stands not being financially viable, and yeah. So I don't think that story is behind a paywall in New Zealand Herald, but yeah, legend of Marty has talked about it, and of course you can garner comments from the stories, but from the comments I should say. Yeah, so obviously this is a huge piece of development, if not necessary. It's difficult to say. I mean, obviously it's not the best news for provincial rugby, and kind of, I guess I guess it's not really shocking. New Zealand Rugby, there is a growing disconnect between the New Zealand Rugby and the provinces. Hey, I mean, there's probably a growing disconnect between New Zealand Rugby and even the Super Rugby franchises, because take for instance the kit deals. Adidas, New Zealand Rugby didn't when they renewed their deal with Adidas, it didn't include the Super Rugby teams. And yeah, I guess this is just another step for the New Zealand Rugby to kind of perhaps become more siloed, independent from the provincial club game. I guess, yeah, for so long, of course, I think, and it's been an advantage perhaps for New Zealand Rugby that, because I guess of our size, New Zealand Rugby has encompassed Super Rugby and the provinces, and for so long, I guess Wellington's rugby house has been sort of carrying the entire game, and I guess now with as I think citing a couple of things, perhaps the worsening economic situation, the reduction of revenues, and or the cost of living and all that sort of thing, New Zealand Rugby is trying to find ways to make itself viable, and I guess justify itself to the Silver Lake investors. And I guess this is, the NPC has pretty much since rugby became professional, the NPC has been on a steady decline in terms of importance, but it is still very, very good competition. And without it, New Zealand Rugby, and in fact World Rugby wouldn't be where it is, because it is a great fertile ground for breeding young players that eventually go to Super Rugby, or they might even go play in Japan or France, and so it is certainly you certainly do not want to get rid of the NPC fully. But having said that, it is crowds, attendances have been certainly declining. In the last 30 years, and since nearly 30 years since rugby went professional. And I guess the sight of places like Eden Park, Sky Stadium, FMG Stadium, that's Waikato Stadium, with so many empty seats for NPC, it's really just not a good look for TV. And I think that's kind of created this negative cycle of it doesn't look on TV, the experience is not good, and and it's like, those people don't really care about it, and it's a cycle that just is difficult. It has been impossible for the NPC to get out of. On the flip side, though, I guess this is kind of, and I think there are lots of positives to come out, even though it is certainly a blow to lose. TV revenue is always going to be the number one profit generator, and that will certainly, the unions certainly need that money to develop the game, to pay the players, and community rugby, that sort of thing. But I guess in a way, though, while it's a devastating blow, it's kind of it's kind of like a sign that rugby is growing up, and it's probably time to cut the cord, to move out of the home, a bit like a teenager, or the kids moving out of the home. And perhaps this, I guess, provincial rugby probably needs to go alone and be able to find ways to to make money, and also drive player and fan engagement. And I guess they've kind of been stuck on this route that they've sort of been shoeboxed into a by the New Zealand, the way New Zealand, like Wellington wants to do it. So yeah, I think it could, there's an opportunity there. I mean, there's also, traditional pay-per-view TV is changing, and there's so many other avenues out there. Like you could see Provincial Rugby being streamed on YouTube live. You could, if you want to make money, you could always have subscriptions, but I mean, they could always go for sponsorship there. And yeah, look, so there's lots of avenues. I guess potentially this could very well mean that you see more provincial games played at in the afternoon rather than at night, because obviously with New Zealand Rugby Sky deal, they kind of had to. So there is a feeling of liberation there. And so only time will tell. We shall have to see. And the other thing, of course, it also means that unions are no longer tied to having to play at much grounds which are just far too big. They can sort of spread it around, like be more community based. So rather Wellington, for example, can opt to go to Porirua Park, although they have started doing that already. They could play Porirua Park, Hard Rec Ground, and it be more closer to the community. And while they will get less people through, it will feel like a better environment for games. So so that's my thoughts on all this, and I guess only time will tell what will happen. And I totally think the whole idea of having this big broadcast deal is like say like the Premier League and all that is kind of we're past that now. And I think here is a chance for some 8-wire thinking by the rugby unions in terms of how they progress the game. I don't think this is the death of provincial rugby. I think, look, as far as there's the pride that it will continue, but obviously it will be quite different from what we've known it. So yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts. If you like this video, feel free to like and don't forget to subscribe.